Welcome to ControlTalk NOW, your smart buildings podcast with Ken Smyers and Eric Stromquist. ControlTalk NOW, your source for control news you can use. And now, here is Eric.
Welcome to ControlTalk NOW for the week ending May 31st, 2015. My name is Eric Stromquist, and I am your host for ControlTalk NOW, your smart buildings videocast and podcast. I am joined, as usual, by my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Kenny Smyers from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to the show, big dog.
Thank you very much, Eric. It's great to be here. And you're right, we missed the round. We were traveling about, and so we got a lot to catch up with. It's going to be a great show.
Well, we do. And Kenny, that was the Interoperable Blues Band. There'll be more on them a little bit later. But you and I were in Colorado Springs last week at Haystack Connect, which was the event of the season, I think, Kenny. And we're going to talk a lot about that in the show. But I think we kick it off just by congratulating Marc Petock, John Petsy, and the rest of the people to put that show on. It was phenomenal. I think it's revolutionary. I think it's going to change the way building automation and smart buildings controls are done. And we're going to talk a lot about it, but we missed it, dude. I mean, last week we did do a live show last week from Colorado Springs, and we had several guests on, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well. But so, dude, what's going on with you?
Well, not much. Like you said, just to go to Colorado Springs, what a beautiful place. I got to see the Air Force Academy, stopped in, checked that out, and then I went up to Pikes Peak, scared myself to death behind the wheel, going up to the 13,300 feet mark, and then we went to the Garden of the Gods. What was that? Oh my gosh,
it was incredible.
Beautiful.
It was incredible. Well, for such a beautiful place, and I think Colorado Springs is known for its beauty, Kenny, and it's known for the fact that it's the sun shines out 347 days out of the year, and we were there the 6 or 7 days that it rains. Because it poured the whole time, didn't it?
It sure did. But tell everybody about the spring water, the 7 springs of Colorado.
Dude, well, our friend Anthony Bronzo from Control Pal is a health nut, and he's an absolute genius, Kenny. And Anthony's really big on spring water. There's all kinds of health benefits to it, and I guess you get the minerals, and because it's in the spring, the earth filters it. And Colorado Springs right there had 7 different springs with different medicinal purposes, and they'd actually evaluated the water from each of the springs, and they could tell you what it was good for. And I tell you what, dude, we loaded up, didn't we? We went and bought some water, poured it out, and filled up at a couple of those springs and took them back to the room. So that was good stuff.
Yeah, I felt immediately healthy. I think it's probably 92% of it psychosomatic. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, it's a placebo water, right?
Yeah, well, you know what? I think you're right. The whole idea of thinking you're taking these very deliberate steps towards good health, and then, the people there, we've talked to the one gentleman, they moved out there specifically for the enriching value of the environment, the healthy environment, the attitude that people have, the workouts they do, and then the water they drink. I mean, so he changed his whole lifestyle, and he really believed it. So you can't make jokes about that.
No, you can't. And another book that Anthony had turned me on to, Kenny, real quick, was a book called "You Are the Placebo." And essentially, it's about all these people that were terminally ill, or doctors, told them there's nothing medicine could do for them, and through some techniques and some belief changing, these people were healed. So I think there's probably a lot to how much your mind affects your body, that whole psychosomatic thing you're talking about. And speaking of psychosomatic, dude, we probably better get on with it. And listen, we're not going to be able to break down all the posts from the last 2 weeks, but there were some key posts we have from 2 weeks ago. So let's hit those, Kenny. What do you say? Let's get started. Let's get through this.
Well, sure. The first one we got to talk about is the Realcomm IBcom general session coming up here. I know that you're going out there. It's unfortunate that I cannot make it, but IBcom, the advisory, Howard Berger and Jim Young have just really put together an incredible show. You've got participation at every level, the user level, the vendor level, the integration level, in the REIT level, the real estate people. I mean, this is really good. Tritium's there. They're going to be, they want to make sure you combine, see them. There's Angus Systems. I mean, it just goes on. And so Julie Devine and all the folks out there have done a marvelous job to stimulate the industries, get them together. And IBcom is something to be part of, and I'm very disappointed that the scheduling didn't work out. But you're going to be out there, so tell us what you got planned.
Yeah, I'm going to be out there, and I'm taking young gun Rob Allen with me, so we're going to be covering the show, and I think it's going to be spectacular. This is again, sort of back to back Haystack to Realcomm, IBcom. We call Jim Young the prophet of our industry. Him and Howard Berger and the rest of the team just do a marvelous job. Where else can you go and learn about the latest technologies, but also rub elbows with real estate people that are out there trying to learn about how to have better technology for their buildings. So you get to prospect while you're out there. And I think, Kenny, we still have, Jim and Howard were kind enough to offer our community a $100 discount. So we'll put a link in the show notes. So still not too late to register and go out there to the show. It's San Antonio, Texas. It's going to be spectacular. And I guess, Kenny, I mean, now San Antonio, was that part of the area that got deluged with the rain? I know it was Austin got hammered, but I'm not sure about San Antonio.
I probably did. I was stationed here once upon a time, and they have flood issues. So it's just it's a dry, kind of sterile environment. And all of a sudden, they get a bunch of rain. It's very hard for them to manage. Yeah,
but that's cool. But anyway, I'll be there. Kenny, you'll be checking in. I know you're going to be doing some family R&R, well deserved. I know how hard you work, and Rita wants some Kenny time, so you guys will have a good time doing that. And so, cool. What are you laughing about?
I don't know, but again, that's the way the calendars work sometimes. But I tell you, speaking of calendars and how fast time's going by, the next post we have was the 2014 ControlTrends Awards highlight reel, and I tell you what, this stuff almost brings tears to my eyes because it was such a huge event. And it's already like in history, it's in the books, but there's probably 150, 200 people that are captured in just this event. And much like Haystack, when you get these kind of community events going on for our industry, it's a very esoteric group of people, and these are the champions of our industry. And if you haven't seen that, you've got to go back and get on ControlTrends, go back to May 11th or 12th, and you'll see the 2014 ControlTrends Awards highlight reel. It's a spectacular accumulation, 3.5 minutes of just HVAC who's.
No, it's fantastic, Kenny. And you and I are planning the 2016 ControlTrends Awards, which will be in Orlando, Florida, in conjunction with AHR. We'll be doing it on Sunday night, so we'll be able to combine the best of both worlds. So if you went to the one 2 years ago, we were very heavy on entertainment. We had it at a cool nightclub. Due to the sort of the constraints of being at the hotel near AHR, we were very limited what we could do this year in Chicago, so we had more awards. So we're going to combine those two. It's going to be on Sunday evening. It's going to be spectacular. And for our sponsors out there, we will be offering a special deal where you can come on early, commit to a sponsorship, and get a special sponsorship rate. But we'll be reaching out to our sponsors here soon. And for our ControlTrends community, hey, try to buy from these sponsors as much as you can, because without them, the ControlTrends Awards don't happen. But Kenny, Orlando's going to be spectacular. I cannot wait to start making some announcements about that. We got a couple of things that are rolling now, but it is going to be the place to be next January. And think about this. 2 years ago in New York, we had a snowstorm, right? People couldn't get around. Last year in Chicago, it was so cold. I have it on good authority because we have an office in Orlando, Kenny. The average temperature in January is about 75 degrees, and I don't think there's a snowball chance in hell that we'll have any snow there. So this is a show that you want to make it for no other reason. You're not going to be putting up with any cold weather, and you get to spend Sunday night at the ControlTrends Awards.
Well, I like that visual effect there. The snowball's chanced in hell. I really like that. And again, Texas, by the way, they all got hammered. Houston, San Antonio, Dallas. So we feel bad for them. It's a presidential disaster declaration. So bad stuff. Hopefully they're past that and mending their ways, because getting back to normal, because there's nothing worse than a flood. I mean, of all the disasters, that's one of the worst, because nothing works afterwards. Everything, HVAC, everything has to be replaced. It's a terrible experience, but hopefully they're past that, and they can move on.
Well, Kenny, let's talk about thoughts and prayers to everybody in Texas that was affected by that, and let's rock and roll to the next post, Big Dog.
Well, the next post was a very good one by the Blue Ridge Technologies. We caught up with Bill Dunkelberger from Blue Ridge Technologies at the CGNA Vendor Showcase. But just in highlight, as we went to Project Haystack, one of the things we get to see again was how these silos now, these self-tagging requirements, one of the big ones would be lighting. So just Blue Ridge Technologies all over that. They've got the standalone gateway and unified systems. They got a great post. They've got a great website. You got to go to www.brtint.com and check out Blue Ridge Technologies.
I agree, Kenny, and I think we really like Bill Dunkelberger. He was a guy that started with ALC, so he has a systems integrator perspective. So he really understands what it's like to integrate lighting into a building automation control system. Great guy. He's going to be coming on and doing a lighting show for us, Kenny, which is going to be really, really cool. So we're in the midst of working with Bill on that. But Blue Ridge Technology has a really nice integration package there.
Sure do. A great video too, by the way. Next up, we have Siemens RDY 2000 thermostat. Just again, a quick overview that this thing is a very formidable commercial thermostat. I'm looking at the parameters that run from 1 to, I think it's let's see, how many you got there? 40, 50, 90. There's 52 parameters, but I mean, just what this thing has inside of it's incredible. And you get to go if you go to the website and check it out. It shows you the internals where you can control so much from the obviously the heating and cooling, but you've got humidity schedules, programs. It's got some really neat daylight savings. It's got the outside air sensor. It's got the UV lamp, service humidifier, service filter light, keypad lockout, and on, so that you can actually create very sophisticated control programming with a very simple thermostat that's very affordable. And I believe companies like Stromquist still have that thermostat on sale. So if you're very interested, check with your local distributor. If they can't get it, then they get it from somebody who has it. But check out the RDY 2000 thermostat. It's a good thermostat.
It's a great thermostat, Kenny. And you and I have tracked a trend called the race to the small space, which is all these small buildings, which are the majority of them. In the past, there's not been really affordable solutions, and people like KMC, Mike Marston with EasyIOâ, Honeywell with the red link and the thermostats. A lot of people are moving into that space because it's huge, and the price points are coming more economical. Now, what's interesting to me about this thermostat that Siemens has got, obviously with all the cyber hacking and the security going on, which is another trend we're tracking, this is not on the network. So you pretty much are able to do a standalone type thing. It's easy to program, easy to set up, and it's a really robust, like you said, thermostat, Kenny. And as a matter of fact, I remember you had an application, you had a customer that was looking for it for a multiple location type deal, and you told me it was the only thermostat you could find that had everything in one thermostat. You could do it by combining other thermostats with peripheral devices, but you said this was the only one that had everything in one box. Yeah,
it was. It had to be user friendly, so it had to have a very easy user interface, which was using the touchpad. So that was an additional prerequisite. 2, all the components had to be internal to the thermostat, so they didn't want any remote sensors, any remote humidity transducers or whatever. They didn't want any kind of it had to come in one package, one thermostat, and take care of all the options. And like you said, through whittling away through all the some fabulous thermostats out there, make no mistake about that, the Siemens RDY 2000 was the only one that met the requirement. And we're anticipating very successful results in that. It's in the beta testing right now with the customer, and we'll keep everybody informed because, like I say, it's something we're tracking, and it's a real life thing. So as these applications come up, part of our job as distributors is to find solutions. And sometimes the solutions are very basic and easy, and sometimes they're very hard to make a customer happy at the end of the day because they just keep missing something and whatever. And so this is one of those ones I think we fulfilled the absolute requirement of the customer, and we'll keep everybody posted.
Rock and roll, Kenny Smyers, rock and roll.
Cool. Well, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Well, the next one, like you said, we're going to have a pretty good pace here because we've got so much material. Contemporary controls in the VAS integrator J2, Niagara AX integration via Haystack. This will be a kind of a part. We're going to go very short on this one because we're going to come back and visit that later. But Contemporary Controls is always on the cutting edge. They've got so much talented, and they understand the network so well that when these events occur and when these opportunities occur, they have that middleware that can take people's issues and network issues and make them simple and provide solutions. So visit Contemporary Controls. This is a great couple of products, again, that we will revisit later on in the show.
Cool stuff. And speaking of that, our next post there, Kenny Smyers, is Sierra Monitoring. They had a webinar that obviously, hopefully you got a chance to go to because that was last week. But Sierra Monitoring is on the move. We are actually producing a show for those guys. So look forward to all things networking coming up with Sierra Monitoring. So in the meantime, check them out, Sierra Monitor. In the meantime, check them out at sierramonitor.com.
Righto, Eric. So the next post we have up is going to be, let's see, we don't get to Haystack yet. We go to... let's go to our friend Randy Lee at Genesis Cable. A great interview you did at the CGNA Vendor Showcase. Speak a bit about Randy and what you thought about his whole deal. Well, first of all, I got a chance to spend a lot of time with Randy. I was on the foursome with him. We went out and hit the white ball around. And what a gregarious guy. What a smart guy. He really loves what he's doing, and this video captures that. But you take something like wire. It's all taken for granted. Everybody tries to beat you down, get the lowest price. You got to be very careful if it's twisted, platinum shielded. Not just it's just something that everybody takes for granted. But there's actually an incredible, sophisticated approach towards wiring, and Honeywell Genesis really and truly put it together. They've got a great phone app. They've got a little book. I know contractors, I see them go through it because they got to pick wire out, and then you want to make sure you don't sell yourself short on your network. So the most important takeaway I got from the Honeywell Genesis cable presentation we did was this incredible box, the way it was designed. Now, I've been on job sites where people have wire spooled out over and they're pulling it, and they've got guys, and there's different ways to do things. People have preferences, but Honeywell came up with a box that to me is it's just well engineered. You can stand on the box, so it has incredible load bearing strength. You can use it upside down to take advantage of braking one way where you want it. As soon as you stop pulling, it stops, so you don't get that it doesn't come out and caterpillar on you. Or if you want to have it free running, you turn it the other side up. And then the most important thing is it's biodegradable. So, I mean, it's just for something that you take for granted, there's a whole lot of time and engineering that goes into it. Honeywell Genesis does a great job. And Randy Lee, Vice President of Sales for Honeywell Genesis, he really enjoys his job. So if you get a chance to hang out with Randy, he's a great time, but he's very knowledgeable, and Honeywell Genesis is doing a great job.
Well, they are, and Randy normally wears a bow tie. He's the guy, if you go to these meetings, you'll see Randy with the bow tie, and he wasn't wearing his bow tie in Savannah, which I thought would have been the perfect place, kind of like To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee type thing, and he wasn't wearing his bow tie. I was really disappointed in that. So if you see Randy Lee, get him to show you how to tie a bow tie, because he knows.
He's from Atlanta, Georgia, right? You guys are all...
I'm not sure, Kenny. I'm not sure. But, hey, speaking of Atlanta, Georgia, I got a horror tale to tell real quick, okay? So I'm going to go off script here a little bit, but I think our community needs to be aware of these things. So obviously when Kenny and I do this broadcast, we need a lot of bandwidth. So back in January, I moved into a new house, and I'm in the process of building a studio, but I checked all the bandwidths, and I went with, I'm not going to name the company, Comcast, but so I went business class, which gave me 100 meg up, 100 meg down, right? Which upload and download speed and unlimited bandwidth for an outrageous sum. It's like $350 a month or something. But, I figured that was the best that there was, right? So there's a knock on the door the other night. My wife freaks out because there's somebody knocking on the door, wakes the babies up. I go out. I'm about to blow this guy out of the water, but he's from ATT Uverse. ATT has a fiber optic cable they've just laid in my neighborhood. Okay, so this thing is 1,000 meg up and 1,000 meg down, unlimited bandwidth for about a quarter of the price. All right, so here's where they get you. So I call Comcast, and of course, I'm called Comcast. The other thing, they lay a cable. They don't dig a trench. I get this cable going through my yard. So I call this guy up, and to tell him that I need to let my service go. So they transfer me around to somebody. I get this really nice guy who informs me that I've signed a 3-year agreement. And okay, what's it going to cost me to get out of that? Well, $5,000. And I'm going, well, let me ask you something now. I remember signing an agreement, but I guarantee you I asked, because I'm just not going to, but I'm not going to read all the fine print. So your rep obviously did not tell me that there was going to be a 3-year contract and $5,000. So anyway, long story short, I'm still going with the ATT. I need to see if I can transfer this up to you. Maybe we can get you on. Do you have Comcast up your way? Comcast up your way?
I can neither confirm nor deny the presence of Comcast.
Yeah, but do you have it up in your area? Because maybe I can just.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, we need to call and see if I can transfer that over to you. But anyway, I digress. But I guess what I'm trying to say to you is, when the rep says there's not a penalty, don't believe me. You got to read all the fine print. So. Anyway, with that, let's move on to talking about connections. Let's move on to the Haystack Connect conference and get into that, Kenny.
Well, I tell you what, Eric, this is I'm very excited to talk about this because there's so much material, and I think it's a historic event again. The first Haystack caught everybody's attention. We came up with the thing. There's something happening here. And that now, to me, is every time I see some new technology coming or I see a change going on, I think of that song and I think of it that there's something happening here. So Haystack Connect 2015 opened the doors there on May 19th. And what a setting. The majestic snow-covered Pikes Peak, contrasted by the wondrous earthly red formations of the Gardens of God, provided a suitably inspiring setting for Haystack Connect. But I'll tell you what, we started off that day just trying to get the bearings on the importance. And I think the first thing you measure importance by is who's there, and who's here and why are they here. And we began to ask people, and it just never stopped. So we had the first collaboration session that we had Marc Petock and 3 special guests. We had Brian Frank, Anno Scholten, and Richard McElhinney. They came to ControlTrends and did kind of a precursor discussion on why some of the 240 top global automation and IoT professionals are attending the second Haystack. And it all started there. I mean, we got a hint, just a not hands-on, but we got a person-to-person explanation of how Haystack started. This Brian Frank is an amazing guy. He's like the Bill Gates. What Bill Gates is to Microsoft and Windows. Brian Frank is to us in the Niagara framework world and the Sedona world, and now the Haystack world. Because if somebody with those kinds of potentials, really is determined to change the industry, and we watched in 4 years. Basically coalesce a whole collaborative society, ecosystem now that manufacturers are taking this, and they're including Haystack. Systems integrators want this to work because it makes sense to them. So here's this very sensible presentation, and then to see Anno Frank come in, Anno Scholten, and then the people from Australia are there, and they believe in it. So I could go on and on because.
Well, hang on, Kenny. First of all, I couldn't disagree with you more. Brian Frank is nothing like Bill Gates. He is like Steve Jobs, meaning he is a absolute revolutionary guy. And no offense to Bill Gates. Bill Gates is a very, very bright guy too. But I think Brian Frank is a visionary. I mean, is he not the guy that put together the Niagara framework originally? And like you said, he put together Sedona and he put this together. This guy is brilliant. And the fact that we got to hang out with him and sort of, put 2 and 2 together, what this is all about and what it's going to mean. And let's just take a minute, Kenny. Let's just talk a little bit about, in its simplest form, Haystack is a tagging convention that manufacturers and device people agree that they're going to tag data in a certain way. Because the fact of the matter is we hear big data all the time, and how big data is great. It's only great if you can use it. So the big takeaway from Haystack was it wasn't that you couldn't get data from different devices through things like BACnet and other things like that, but the cost to do it was very, very high. And I think one of your integrators, Dave, what was the gentleman's name we met the first Haystack that came to? Dave Simmers. I mean, he coined a term called link monkey, which basically, he just said, somebody has to sit there and they basically have to link this piece of data to that piece of data to this piece of data to that piece of data. Can be done, but it's very, very, very expensive. So by agreeing to this tagging convention, you eliminate all that. And we'll talk a little bit further in the show, Kenny, about the presentation that Jason Briggs and Scott Meunch did about to show just exactly how easy it is to do all this. But it's huge. So I want to sort of set that framework. So the takeaway for our community basically is this, Kenny, is that they have to begin to ask for Haystack compliant controls. Okay, to have this thing continue to get traction. There were major manufacturers there. There were a lot of major manufacturers that still weren't there yet. But I think it gets back to another trend, Kenny, that we've been tracking, which is, redefining competition in our industry where there's collaborative competition, meaning that, it used to be an us against them mentality. And you could win that if you had a better technology, but things are changing so rapidly now that you have to sometimes work with your competitors and collaborate with them to move the ball down the field for everybody. And I commend the many companies you talked about at Haystack that have embraced this, because most of them compete with each other, but they've also come together to collaborate to create a value for the users that no one company could create on their own. So the vendors that have not embraced Haystack yet, I encourage you to do it. I don't think it's going away. I think it's here to stay, and I think the owners are going to start demanding it. And it was just, and again, the people you mentioned that we talked about on the show, we've got that interview posted. Check it out. You got some of the greatest minds in the industry: Brian Frank, Anno Scholten, Marc Petock, and Richard McElhinney from Down Under. It was spectacular.
Well, Eric, there's say takeaways. I like that, because each time you have to kind of sum things up, because it's just there's a lot of material and there's a lot of ideas, but basically they want to go that you have to have self-defining data. That's just it. It's got to be machine to machine. You got to take the human out of it. It's costly, it's timely, and the human efforts can be directed to something more beneficial. And then there's this kind of like I don't want to say an accusatory mention, but if you're not presenting your data willingly, then you're hiding your data. And this is going to all of a sudden people are going to say, well, why aren't you doing this? And it's going to be like it's going to become conspicuous by non-participation. In other words, put your data out there so everybody can use it. Create the self-defining methodologies so that we can maximize our purpose, instead of trying to make that a something that you can hide inside of a software program and then force a software program on somebody. This is being called out in a very, very large way. So I think the sooner you adopt it, and another thing about adoption rates is there's no quicker way than word of mouth. And this thing is spreading through the underground. This is not spreading through vast marketing campaigns, and this isn't, there's no commercials on TV. This is happening through the integration, communities that probably have the most power and the most say in the end effect. When people are deciding what they're going to use, the people that have most influence are the ones that are adopting it. And that's where I was saying at the meeting, I just looking around and the conversations we had, these are the folks that actually are going to dictate our future. So you got to get on board, at least know what's going on. So when you do miss the train, you know what direction it was going.
Right. Well, and I think there's a concept in social media called crowdsourcing, and I think this is just a great example of what happens when like-minded individuals get together and decide to create something for the greater good. And it's amazing, Kenny, because we were at the very first Haystack, we covered it, and then to see this and see the progress that's been made in 2 years is phenomenal. So again, congratulations to everybody that's involved with Haystack, and Marc Petock, John Petsy, and the rest of the crew. Great job.
Then let's just carry on to the next post, which was 2015 Haystack Connect, the general session, opening comments, keynote speakers. Again, John Petsy and Marc Petock literally hit the stage running. It was very entertaining. They did a thank you to all the sponsors, and then they got into the details. So the Haystack community now has 900 registered members, 245 of which were present at the general session. Project Haystack has grown by 45% over the last 2 years, and just special recognition to the companies now who are now on the Haystack bandwagon, so to speak. You got Linkspring, Contemporary Controls, KMC, J2 Innovations, BASSG, Plant Pro, Air Masters from Australia. You have Watt Stopper, you have Onicon. It's just so 10 major manufacturers put their Haystack efforts together in one amazing presentation.
It's good stuff. It was good stuff. All right, so day one, continuing on.
Well, I think we just mentioned to the keynote speakers to give them justice. Yep. Dave Mantell from Vodafone was the first keynote speaker. He reviewed the global M2M platforms and Vodafone's dedicated M2M managed solutions. He's thinking that M2M visibility is now critical because customers want one hand to shake or one throat to choke, and that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Now M2M now links customers directly to the manufacturers for issues and resolutions. There's no more, like 2 weeks to get an answer back to something. You want an answer, you'll be able to go directly to the people responsible for because of the connectivity of M2M. The second keynote speaker was Dr. Milan Milenkovic, principal engineer at Intel Labs Santa Barbara, Santa Clara, California, and he worked in. Oh my gosh, this guy's got.
He was fascinating, man.
Litany of all the academic, his PhD, this research director, that. He's just an amazing guy. A POEM project, but what he's saying is that the world of existing buildings and the lack of a holistic operation, and how computing economics, pervasive connectivity, and big data analytics are driving aggregation and optimization. That something like Haystack caught his attention. He really wasn't directly involved in the Haystack protocol, but when he found out what they were doing, he began to experiment with his college students and with his graduate students on how they could take the information from our protocols that we're using now, like BACnet and LAN, and see how easy it would be to convert into Haystack, into self-tagging data. And it was an amazing experiment that's still in progress. But basically, they did a couple of these runs, and they got 80% of it came into the self-tagging mode. And so it was a great presentation, very informative. And then, again, it's like, why wouldn't you want to do Haystack, Eric?
Well, I got to think that if you're a manufacturer, probably the holdup would be that there's probably a cost to put the tagging in. But, once you get that done, it seems like that would just be of value to your controllers or your devices. And I think the ones that have adopted it early are going to reap the benefits.
Well, and then again, the people who really benefit are the people that need the information from the data. So the sooner they get that, the sooner they're able to aggregate everything and come up with the greatest efficiencies and the greatest economies of scales, but most importantly, the elimination of a lot of duplistic operating costs. Like I wonder what's going on. That wonder part's going to go away. So the next follow-on post, Eric, was we captured all that on day one and then went back and talked to John Petsy. And he just was ecstatic. He was just so excited. I mean, he has that enthusiasm that's contagious, like you say. But he said, we're off to a great start. So our next post was off to a great start. Project Haystack Executive Director John Petsy reports. So he told us that, ControlTrends, he was appreciative of all the coverage we were doing and being in the trenches so that we could get a better understanding and therefore be able to convey it better to the ControlTrends community because this whole idea of advanced analytic techniques, enhanced reporting, and comprehensive energy analysis, John made the very important point to just stop right there. You can't get any of that information. You cannot get energy analysis, enhanced reporting, advanced analytic techniques without tagging data.
No, you really can't, and there's a cost to it. I mean, and I think that's a big thing. And I think we had a chance to. What we tried to do is we tried to get the Haystack perspective from different people's points of view. So we picked up Little Poppy, Jason Houck, who is from Hepta Systems up in Canada. They are one of the premier systems integrators on the planet, Kenny. I mean, these guys win all kinds of awards for their projects. And Jason was one of our young guns at the 2014 ControlTrends Awards. Very, very, very bright guy. And you can listen to the interview. Jason gives you his impressions of Haystack. But the telling thing for me, Kenny, was I asked Jason point blank, if you're doing a data integration thing where you're bringing stuff up to an analytics platform and bringing the data to being used, how much installation time or money are you going to save percentage-wise to the cost to the owner? And Jason's saying it's like 80-90% less
90%.
expensive. 90%.
90%.
90%, yeah. So if you're an owner, or if you're a consulting engineer. And I talked to one of the premier architects in Atlanta this week, Kenny, that does a lot of retro commissioning and commissioning. They had no idea about Haystack. And, the cost to get that data is so high. But imagine being able to bring the data in, and nobody debates the usefulness of data and be able to go into rules-based type logics and things like retro commissioning become available when you do that. Nobody at all debates the effectiveness of that. But the cost in many instances has been prohibitive. So if you've got Haystack compliant devices, this is not my words. This is not your words, Kenny. This is young little Poppy, one of the best systems integrators on the planet, is saying he's going to save about 90% of the installation time being able to use Haystack compliant devices. And we saw proof of that, which we'll talk about. Well, we actually don't have the post on it, but we talked to Jason Briggs a little bit later. We'll talk about it then. But we actually saw proof of it. The second demonstration, we saw proof of it. So this is not conjecture. This is, if you come to Haystack, you can actually see it happen right in front of your eyes.
Right, and you'll have the post up. Looks like things are frozen again.
Just keep talking. It's okay. I got you. You're coming through auditory-wise, and that's all that matters.
All right. Well, like you said, the different perspectives, which was a very, I think, a key aspect of this this isn't promulgated from our distributing perspective. It's not from a contractor perspective. It's not from it's not from just an end user's perspective. It's from everybody's perspective, has common ground. So I think that's where you truly can build that so-called ecosystem.
Yep.
Well, there's another post that keeps falling on because, again, the theme was deep, and we had Haystack Connect. We went into the next day 2. We have an interview with Ken Sinclair where he interviews Jack McGowan. He's on special assignment. Ken Sinclair of Automated Buildings is helping us out. He's on special assignment with ControlTrends, and he takes the mic and interviews a longtime friend and colleague, Jack McGowan of the McGowan Group. And this was another great presentation. First, that Jack McGowan's a very smart guy. He has a lot to say because he's only got about 40 years in the business, right? He has seen it go from the early days, not to be geologic here, but like the prehistoric times where we were an industry that didn't have a whole lot of intelligence. We just made equipment work, and we tried to put that in, and then the networks began and the communications began. But he talks about he's published his 6th book. And he's watched our industry evolve, and he talks about the value that he sees evident because of Haystack. To quote him, he says that the candid video captures Ken Sinclair and Jack having a good time rubbing each other, but Jack McGowan believes that the ability to use Haystack, and he refers to his book called The Energy and Analytics, Big Data and Building Technology Integration, which will be available August 1st through the Fairmont Press. The pre-order forms are available on automatedbuildings.com. But he said some very important things to the 240 people there, and he said, you guys realize that you really have an opportunity here to leverage all the intelligence in the building now. And you also have the ability to leverage your own intelligence as integrators in this community, which is a very limited amount of people. So this positive is a win-win effect, and it drives more value to the customer while it's driving more business to yourself. So he's saying, don't let up. Pursue this because this is a great profession. And that led into a conversation with the young guns and about attracting more talent to our industry because this is a really good career now. We've got all the IoT tools. We've got a market that's underdeveloped and gives you a long-term career path. And then he goes back into the just kind of summing it all up. He's got a foreword by John Petsy to the book. Ken Sinclair does the foreword to the what is it? The various sectors of the books, each one does a foreword. Jim Lee did the foreword to the case studies. I remember that. And then Ken Sinclair did a foreword to, I think, the integration parts of it. But so it's a great book and it's endorsed by everybody in the industry. Jack McGowan's renowned and just a genuinely smart guy that really wants to see the industry progress.
He really is, Kenny. He's Hall of Fame material. And I tell you what, a special thanks to our friend Ken Sinclair, the multi-talented Ken Sinclair. Boy, did he do great with the interviews, Kenny. He put me and you to shame. So if you like Ken's interviews, reach out in comments and tell Ken he did a good job. We need to get him in front of the camera more often. And speaking of that, automatedbuildings.com, the June issue will be hitting the street probably by the time you guys and girls are watching this. So check him out at automatedbuildings.com. He's going to have a lot on Haystack this particular episode.
It's called Back from the Stack. Back from the Stack is his theme for June.
Back from the Stack. Does he remind you a little bit of Back to the Future, that guy, the scientist, what was it, Christopher Lloyd's character?
Well, he's just so comfortable in front of a camera. He doesn't realize he's being videoed, so he's very candid. He's
great, man.
So he's what I like about it is he's just able to pull things out. I have trouble with names sometimes. I have to write things down because I get all excited and I can't remember what I want to say. So I don't have respect for people that don't have to refer to notes or whatever, and can recall very long and very in-depth concepts.
Yeah, Kenny, I got a text from Comcast just a second ago. They said they didn't like what we said on the show about them, so they're going to freeze you out. So our audience can hear you. You're just frozen. So if you come on frozen again, I'll let you know so you can get a big smile on your face, and then when they freeze you again, you'll have a big smile on your face. But we can hear you loud and clear. So, all right, big dog. So the Jason Houck was another really great chance to catch up with somebody and get another perspective on Haystack. What do we have up next?
Well, we had Christopher Naismith. He weighs in at Haystack 2015. And this was a young gun type of guy where he has this idea on the fastest way to teach people how to get smarter and stay smarter is to create an internal self-didactic or autodidactic methodology where if you know how to do something, put it into a database so that somebody else that doesn't know about it has access to it, and you'll begin to create these gigantic and awesome databases of information that other people, younger people, can learn.
Kenny, that's a big part of it. But the other thing is it's learning organizations too. And if you go to his website, check him out. He's not just a young gun. They are a company of young guns that are personally, you read their mission statements. They're very passionate about making the environment safer and better and saving energy. So these guys, he reminds me a bit of Anthony Bronzo, just the way that they think differently. But Kenny, I didn't see an old person in their company. It was all young folks that are committed to saving energy and making the planet greener. So it is autodidactic about how people can learn, but it's also how to have your organization learn quicker, which I think is that's sort of taken it to the next level. It's one thing to have, self-learning individuals, but then when you can have a self-learning organization, they can respond and process the changes quicker and put them into effect. This is a fascinating guy, and Chris is going to agree to come on and do an interview with us, so he will tell us a little bit more about what he's doing. He gives you a flavor for it in the interview that we did with him and Ken Sinclair. But very, very bright guy. Check these guys out, SES Consulting. We have a link there on the post, but check them out. But the coolest thing to me, Kenny, was just seeing the individual profiles of the individual in this organization. They do systems integration, Kenny. They do engineering. They do building analysis. They do a bunch of stuff.
I'm on their website right now, and they got a neat presentation. It's a very, very hip, fresh website. Like you say, they're all about energy efficiency, engineering, energy, and efficiency. But what's really cool about it is how their approach. In other words, they put the people on there like it's almost like the role. It's
almost like a social media site in a way.
Exactly. So they take some of the they make you feel more. It's a very personable approach towards a website. But it's all about getting, they know what they're doing. So they definitely have differentiated themselves, and no surprise that Ken Sinclair would be working with Christopher because Ken has pointed out and we pointed out we're all concerned with the tribal knowledge leaving the building and how do we attract younger people into the industry. Well, I'll tell you what, Christopher and his company is a great example of what's possible. Well, Brad White he did the presentation. He is the principal of SES.
Oh, that's Brad. Okay, he helped us with the ControlTrends Awards.
He introduced the young guns.
That's right.
He was the quote unquote first young gun that came through the energy world with Ken Sinclair back, let's say 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Alper was also a member of that
Alper
initial group. So Oldsmar. I think we have a post on Alper coming up later on next week. I think
next week. Yeah.
But again, we're going to keep rolling into this because we got to go to Contemporary Controls. George Thomas at Haystack Connect. George, of course, is Contemporary Controls is celebrating its 40th anniversary in the control world. They are just a consummate story of just hard work, determination. We're talking about an entrepreneur that began in his basement. He took this thing into a global company, and he's just so humble. Our picture at the beginning of the post shows him holding up the book, Network Communications for Buildings, where he generously gave this book to the industry. And this is basically an incredible number of the bruising that you go through to learn how to make things work. And he's given it away to the industry at large. So you could download the book from his website. But more importantly, I think with Contemporary Controls, and I can't seem to really describe it well, is they just don't do networks. They sell controllers. They sell controllers, and they're very popular in different, a lot of the automation folks, like the Contemporary Controls BAS graphics. They did something very unique for Haystack Connect, though, and this is where Contemporary Controls, I think, shows their mental prowess. They put together a device or a router that takes it from the takes the different parts of the Haystack and makes it accessible to the Niagara AX supervisor. So that's it just shows how they can get things done, and their approach is something that it's not just to drive sales for Contemporary Controls, but rather to help people with solutions.
Well, I tell you what, George Thomas, he was inducted into the ControlTrends Hall of Fame this year, deservedly so. And George Thomas, to me, is the smartest guy in the room. Now, he is a guy that Bill Gates wishes he could be more like. Bill Gates wishes he could be more like George Thomas, because you talk about a guy that is he creates really cool products that work. And like you say, it's not just about the products, it's about the solutions. Even though he is a little bit older, he is young at heart. And, we got to watch him sort of roll around and talk to people. He's passionate about Haystack. He's passionate about controls. And Kenny, he's just a guy that's been there, done that, and is still moving down the road, wanting to know what's next and how he can contribute. So be sure to check out Contemporary Controls. I think it's just ccontrols.com, but we'll put a link on the website. Check George and his team out.
Well, again, just to emphasize that he took something that they built on Contemporary Controls' open automation Linux platform. The BAS integrator J2 can discover points and apply Haystack tags to serve up to building supervisors such as Niagara AX supervisor. So using an open and free Haystack driver, in the AX supervisor only needs to know IP addresses and the BAS integrator J2 in the network for a seamless interface to all points on a job, regardless of the type of point. The result is an inexpensive yet modern approach to building automation where access to structured data is critical.
Well, cool stuff. When I tell you what, let's move on. I mean, there's another couple other posts up here. We're not going to go through all the posts, but on this theme, let's go right to J2. We had a chance to catch up with Jason Briggs from J2 Innovation, and Kenny, let's talk a bit about the live demo that he and Scott Meunch did in front of the entire crowd. They did something very similar in Chattanooga at the first Haystack. They upped the game a whole new level here, Kenny. And I tell you what, you talk about guys that are not afraid to put their convictions out on display. When we talked about earlier how it eliminated the ability for people to link, how it's much faster. We talked about how Jason Houck from Hepta Systems says it reduces the time to move the data around by 90% or more. These guys showed how to do it. Talk about that demo, Kenny.
Well, Eric, we were videoing it, so you were doing some important capture there, and I hope that comes out, because that's going to be a showstopper there, that the presentation demo. But basically what they did was they took a very novel approach, almost like it reminded me of Sesame Street. They took people from the audience and they gave them signs, and they said, "You are an air handler, you are a zone control, you are a temperature input, you are this." And then what they showed was that tagging, as Jason Briggs says, is a fact. It conveys, the tag has information to it, so that when you begin to tag a location, a building, a type of a piece of equipment, the controller on that piece of equipment, and then the inputs to that controller, which is a outside air temperature or temperature sensor, or a discharge air sensor, return sensor. What they're talking about is making every single one of those points a fact that's the same every time, everywhere, for every application, so that there is no human interpretation. The hardest part to do, and I've done it myself, I can't remember my own passwords. Going back to a project, you can't remember, what does that say, or where is that point now, So what they did was they used people, and they gave them different things to hold, and they actually had automation going on where they could show that as they connected things on that project, they were live and they were instantaneously integrated. So they took a whole bunch of different people's stuff. They took Onicon meters, they took watt stopper lighting controls, they took KMC, they brought their near field communication protocol and showed it, where Eric Kruder got up and with his iPhone programmed 2 or 3 VAV controllers that were immediately integrated into the Haystack Connect, and all the tagging was done. Based on those tags, they integrated a schedule. Based on the schedule, they integrated occupied, unoccupied, and it just went on until it was just a fabulous, entertaining presentation. Probably, without sounding overly over off the top, it's probably the best presentation I've ever seen, because I've been through many different summits and things. I'm always impressed with technology, but to put that kind of stuff on a stage and be able to make it work in front of that kind of pressure. And the experimental aspect of, now the way they explained to me, they were there the night before and they didn't know what the other vendors were going to do, so they had to kind of see what they're doing and wrap it into what they're doing, and then hold their breath.
No, Kenny, it was absolutely phenomenal. And and like Kenny said, they brought people up on the stages that represented the different devices, and they actually had like little light bulbs that were, connected wirelessly or whatever. So when they actually came on, you could see it on the screen where they came on, but then also the light bulbs would light up and turn on and off. But let's put this in perspective, Kenny. It'll be a little bit like, to our integrators out there, imagine somebody coming in and saying, okay, we got, 8 or 10 different devices, okay? And we're going to get you up on stage and in front of 300 people. In the course of about 10 minutes, we're going to bring all these devices online where they can communicate. And it's going to be done wirelessly through the Haystack protocol. Most people, me included, would just go, there's no way I'm going to do that. But all these devices, they showed, Kenny, just how quickly they could have them communicate, share data points, and bring them online. I think this just revolutionizes the whole way building automation controls are going to be done. And for no other reason, the fact that your install time is going to go way down with this technology.
Yeah, that'll go down too, but also then you have a very effective means to do all the things we're talking about. So there's no redundancies, there's no misses. In other words, you're going to be able to know what you have, and you're going to be able to take the information so that you can do, like you were saying, the retro, just constant commissioning. To find out that one of the greatest expenditures we have is to have heating and cooling at the same time. And they used that as one of their demos, where they showed the historical archiving of the monitoring at that point, and then how it shouldn't have had it, but the heating and cooling were on at the same time. And basically you come to the conclusion that the heating valve stuck open. If there's something, debris or some very, thing, or that they've had this particular point has been on for 3 years and never turned off and nobody knew it. It's been calling for heat. And so what it does is, once you have this tagging information, and then you have, like you said, you're looking for problems and issues, and you can write a program that says, tell me any kind of anomalies that we have and why, show me the dates. And you can go back and you see, okay, well, obviously we got a problem here because the heating and cooling is on at the same time. And to think that is our biggest waste of energy and money, it's in this day and age, with all the technology we have and all the money invested in that technology, that should not be happening. Well,
it shouldn't. And I think the best example we can give, Kenny, of that is our friend Daryl Smith, who we caught up from Microsoft, who we caught up with at Realcomm IBcom. And he said that, they had every system in the world, but they were doing alarm-based type things, which basically means if a temperature gets too hot or too cold, you get an alarm, you got a problem, you go out, you get it fixed, right? But when they actually put this rules-based thing in, they wound up saving a huge amount of money because they never got any alarms because the heating and the cooling were running at the same time, so the tenants were comfortable but they were using about 3 times as much energy as they needed to. And again, for somebody, when Daryl did it at Microsoft, I mean, it was the Link monkeys putting it all together. It was expensive to put that together, but now with the Haystack Connect protocol, dude, you could just, anybody can do it. It's affordable to everybody now. So I think the takeaway for our community is, again, if you're an owner, if you're an integrator, if you're a consulting engineer, you need to be asking for Haystack compliant devices.
Yeah, I agree, Eric. It's coming. Here it's 2015, so we'll see where we're at in 2016, 2017. But maybe one day in the show we'll say we kind of we saw it coming back in May of 2015 because we came back from the Haystack Connect 2015, energized and aware, and then the rest of it's kind of history. So the rest of it's just going to. And see, the thing that really and truly impressed me was it's global. This is just not a Western, part of the United States or Southeast part of the United States or United States or North America. This is global, and the people that were there are
from all over the world, Kenny. All over the world.
So you get, and they want it too. And in other words, so this isn't like a fad or something. And I think when you get somebody like Brian Frank there, determined to make it work, and he's had the successful past that he's had, that this ecosystem is going to continue to grow. The community is going to become more compelling, and Haystack will become something that will become a norm.
I agree, Kenny. And I tell you what, I think what better way, we're going to have to sort of begin to wrap it up here, but I think what better way than our last post, which we captured Brian Frank on stage addressing the community, explaining how Haystack works. And if you really want to get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, that's the video you want to watch. Nothing fancy there, but you can hear Brian explain the whole thing and check it out. So with that, Kenny Smyers, a couple of things. Let's talk about a little future business here. We got EasyIOâ in Paris. We had a chance to see Mad Mike Marston out at the Haystack Connect, and Mad Mike has got big plans for the Paris worldwide event. Anything in particular you think we need to mention that we haven't so far?
Well, I got a chance to talk to, email Mike, and it's solidified now. They have what is probably going to be the best social technical combo that you can get for a 2.5-day event. They begin with dinner and drinks at the Paris Hard Rock Cafe. And it's networking. So again, these folks are coming from all over, from India. We got the contingent coming from India. The guys are coming from Australia again. I've already spoken, or emailed with people that they're on their way. They can't wait. We got Tommy Hagenes coming in from the Nordic part of the globe coming in. He's Finland. I think he's out of Finland.
Norway.
Norway. I'm sorry. And then we've got all the people coming from North America, because now we just got Belimo came in as a gold sponsor. So Belimo is going to be anchoring the sponsorship. So it goes from a social night on the Sunday to a full-blown technical presentation update. The FG32 Plus, of course, is the front premier product, but they've also got some applications. Mike and you and I went down to a microbrewery where Mike did this incredible presentation on a brewery application that's specifically using the FG32, just one, and it does the entire monitoring control of a microbrewery. And then they've got a marvelous VAV air handling unit application that's full backnet. And what's cool about that is that on the application itself is your full backnet, your litany of all your requirements, your points, everything's exactly. So you don't have to go to another place to get your documentation, which is very, very clever. And then they've got Tuesday. That night there's a dinner at the Lido, which is a famous restaurant nightclub in Paris. And then
that is hard to get reservations there, much less for a group like us.
Well, they secured it, and we've got primo seating. And then the second day will be one more EasyIOâ technical session meeting in the morning, and then afternoon. Again, they've got a tour of some kind of a spelunking contest where you're going to be competing for prizes on your knowledge of Parisian locales and information and facts. So they can put fun into it. So it looks like an amazing global event that, again, we're seeing people come in and starting to turn into a magnet. So we've got vendors coming in. We've got people registering. And Mike is using us, ControlTrends, to convey the updates. Moving real quick, let's just summarize again, Eric, your involvement in IBcom, Realcomm. You're going to be one of the, you're a sponsor. ControlTrends is a sponsor, and you're going to be doing the opening couple minutes, right? Tell us about that real quick.
Well, I tell you what, they're brave. They put me up on stage with a microphone. Who knows what could happen? But no, we're excited about being there. Realcomm IBcom coming up, and again, I think you can still attend, $100 off if you use the discount code that ControlTrends has. But it's going to be a great show. So hey, if you are there and you see me, please come up and introduce yourself. I tell you, Kenny, one of the great things about ControlTrends is we get to meet people from all over the world, which is really, really cool. So anyway, Big Dog, it looks like they took you off. So now we're just seeing a picture of you pulsating. So Comcast is really not happy about this. So I'll tell you what, that, Kenny, we will begin to wrap it up here real quick. One last thing I want to mention, we've upgraded the ControlTrends website. If you go across the top bar, you'll see something that says Resource Center Training Videos. We're basically linking into all the major manufacturers. So when they update a training video, it's right there for you. It's by vendor. We'll continue to add to that. So check that out. And with that, Kenny Smyers, I'm going to bid you adieu. You are just pulsing there. Can you even hear me still, or have they totally got you locked out? Looks like they got Kenny Smyers totally locked out. So with that, I'm Eric Stromquist. He is Ken Smyers, the pulsating face. Have a great week, and remember, stay in control. This is the part where Kenny goes, "Indeed, Eric," and I go, "Indeed, Kenny Smyers."